Have you ever thought that being born into the most powerful family in America and being called by the whole world the Princess of Camelot is actually one of the most tragic destinies? Caroline Kennedy possessed everything. Her father was the president. Her mother was an icon of elegance. Her family was American royalty. However, from the age of 5, her life became an endless chain of losses. Her father was assassinated in front of the whole world. Uncle Bobby was shot dead. Her younger brother died in a plane crash. Her mother passed away from cancer. And most recently, her own biological daughter also passed away from cancer at the age of 35. Money cannot protect you from what Caroline Kennedy has had to endure. Glamorous on the outside, but tragedy behind. This is not a story about a spoiled rich girl. This is the journey of the last survivor of Camelot. The woman who has lost almost everything, but still chooses to stand up with quiet dignity in the secret world of old, long-established, wealthy families. And that story began long before Caroline uttered her first cry to welcome life. Her father, John F. Kennedy, was at that time an ambitious senator. Her mother, Jacqueline Kennedy, a graceful and resilient woman, had to endure 2 painful miscarriages, and especially the departure of their daughter, Arabella, in 1956, when the baby had just been born. That sorrow enveloped the young couple like a cold shadow amid the brilliant ambitions of the Golden Age. Then Caroline was born healthy and full of vitality on November 27, 1957 in New York. A small miracle that partly dispelled the gloomy fog and brought joy back to the house in Georgetown. In the first 3 years of her life, she grew up in a peaceful, old-fashioned house where her father was rising rapidly on the political path, where politicians and journalists came and went constantly. But Mother Jackie still persistently tried to create for her daughter the most normal childhood possible in the secret world of old, long-established, wealthy families. Everything began to change at a dizzying speed in November 1960. When Caroline was about to celebrate her 3rd birthday, her father was elected President of the United States. Just 2 weeks later, her younger brother, John Jr., was born. And exactly 2 days after that, Caroline turned 3 years old. In less than a month from the daughter of a senator, she became one of the most sought-after and photographed children in America. On January 20th, 1961, the Kennedy family moved into the White House, the most powerful palace in the world, where every gesture of little Caroline became public property, where people saw in her the image of youth of hope and an era called Camelot. Glamorous on the outside, but tragedy behind. Life inside the stark white walls of the White House was a strange mix between utmost luxury and unrelenting surveillance. Jackie, with the deep instinct of a mother, set up a kindergarten right on the upper floor so that Caroline could have friends and normal lessons. The most iconic image is the little girl riding the small pony Macaroni, a gift from Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson on the lush green lawn of the White House, her short hair flying in the wind, her innocent smile captivating the entire United States. However, behind those radiant photos, Secret Service agents always followed closely. Every step and every outfit she wore became hot news on the front pages. Then, in the summer of 1963, the fragile joy was suddenly extinguished. Her mother gave birth to Patrick Kennedy, the 2nd younger brother, bringing hope for a complete family. But Patrick only lived for 2 days. Caroline, at 5 years old, although she did not fully understand death, still felt the terrifying silence that enveloped the White House, and the image of her father, the strongest man she knew. Shedding tears beside his brother's incubator became a deep cut in her young memory. Imagine a normal Friday morning. You are sitting in the kindergarten class on the upper floor of the White House playing carefree. November 22nd, 1963 began like any other day. While Caroline was studying and laughing with her friends 1,500 miles away in Dallas, the gunshots rang out. When the news of the assassination spread like wildfire, the White House sank into chaos. Caroline and John Jr. were taken by their nanny, Maud Shaw, back to their grandmother's house in Georgetown. That evening in the small bedroom, Nanny Shaw sat down beside Caroline's bed and gently told her that her father had gone to heaven and would never come back. The 5-year-old girl looked up, her voice clear but full of confusion. "So can Father come down from heaven to visit me?" The answer was no. And in that moment, Caroline's whole world collapsed. The following days were a chain of mourning broadcasts live to millions of eyes around the globe. Caroline, in a light blue coat trimmed with pure white gloves, stood tightly holding her mother's hand beside her father's casket. Her little face was unusually solemn, even though inside was unbearable pain. The image of her and her little brother standing watching their father's coffin pass by has become one of the most haunting moments in American history, a living testament to the price of privilege, to the unspoken pain of a little dollar princess in the hidden world of old, long-established, wealthy families. After leaving the White House in December 1963, Caroline Kennedy, along with her mother and younger brother, returned to their old house in Georgetown. But that once familiar home had now turned into a transparent glass cage, where every smallest gesture was exposed before millions of curious eyes. Tourist buses rolled slowly through the street. The tour guide's voice echoed, pointing to the house where the president's widow is hiding, while crowds kept gathering outside, just hoping to catch a glimpse of Jackie's black dress or Caroline's innocent face. The little girl could not run and play in the yard without being chased by lenses. Even a simple shopping trip became a major media event. Money and privilege could not protect you from that relentless invasion. The unbearable suffocation was what made Jackie make a decisive decision in 1964. Leave Washington to go to New York, hoping that the big city would grant them a fragile anonymity. They moved into a penthouse apartment at number 1040 Fifth Avenue, the luxurious Upper East Side area where Jackie believed her family could blend into the crowd. Caroline was enrolled in the convent of the Sacred Heart School, a prestigious and discreet Catholic school. However, reality was still harsh. Secret Service agents stood guard outside the classroom door. Peers looked at her with eyes that were both admiring and wary. In the secret world of old, long-established, wealthy families, Caroline grew up in a strange isolation, becoming shy, distant, carrying on her shoulders the weight of a national symbol when she was only a little girl in her growing years. Glamorous on the outside, but tragedy behind. When those memories of her father gradually faded into old frames, another man appeared to fill the void. Uncle Bobby Kennedy, the warmest and most solid second father of the two siblings. He spent hours taking Caroline and John Jr. to play in Hyannisport, organizing camping trips, using his enthusiasm and love to make the little girl laugh. But then the gunshots rang out once more at the Ambassador Hotel in 1968, taking away Uncle Bobby when Caroline was only 10 years old. In less than 5 years, The two most important men in her life were both taken by violence. That unbearable pain made Jackie, in extreme panic, exclaim that if they were hunting the Kennedys, then her children were the #1 target. It was that deep fear that pushed the family into the marriage that shocked the whole country. Jackie married Greek billionaire Aristotle Onassis in October 1968. Not a fairy tale, but a desperate escape in search of protection. You can imagine the heart of an 11-year-old girl being torn between two worlds. One side is the familiar school in Manhattan. The other side is luxurious excursions on the legendary yacht Christina or the private island Scorpios. Onassis tried to win over Jackie's children with expensive gifts and walks on the Emerald Sea, but Caroline still kept a cold distance. The little girl once frankly admitted that she did not like her stepfather. In the hidden world of traditional wealthy families, the tensions between Onassis's own children and Jackie's children became increasingly suffocating. Caroline withdrew into the world of poetry and books, seeking some inner peace amid the constant whirlwind of change. After Onassis passed away in 1975, tragedy almost touched Caroline directly. One morning in October 1975 in London, just 90 seconds late perhaps, history would no longer have her name. At that time, 17 years old, studying an art course at Sotheby's and staying at the house of Senator Hugh Fraser, an IRA bomb exploded under the owner's car. The explosion took the life of Professor Gordon Hamilton Fairley, the innocent neighbor who was taking a walk. Caroline escaped death by a hair's breadth. That was a spine-chilling reminder that the price of privilege is sometimes life hanging by a thread, and the shadow of tragedy still silently clings to the Kennedy family. But instead of letting fear swallow her, Caroline chose silence and resilience. She returned to America, entered Radcliffe with iron determination to build her own life. She once dreamed of becoming a photojournalist, but soon realized she could not observe others when all eyes were focused on her. Even when interning at the Daily News with a modest salary of $156 a week, she still happily made coffee, changed typewriter ribbons to feel a bit of normalcy. After graduating in 1980, she worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Amid the quiet hallways full of masterpieces, she met Edwin Schlossberg, a man 13 years older than her, who saw in Caroline not the president's daughter, but a profound, fragile, and strong-willed woman. The wedding in July 1986 at Cape Cod was the moment Caroline personally wrote her own chapter of happiness. Uncle Ted led her down the aisle in place of her father amid warm applause. She firmly kept the Kennedy surname after marriage, a silent declaration affirming her father's legacy without needing to rely on it. 3 children, Rose, Tatiana, and Jack, were born in love. To protect her children from the tragedies she had experienced, Caroline created a peaceful oasis in the middle of Manhattan, taking her children to the park, to school without turning it into a performance, refusing most interviews and keeping distance from the noisy whirlwind of the extended Kennedy family. In the heart of a legacy full of loss, she proved that even a dollar princess could find simple happiness through perseverance and quiet courage. And have you ever wondered, when a woman who has just passed 40 has had to witness almost all the people she loved the most leave one after another, what shape would that heart take? For Caroline Kennedy, the final and deepest connection in the family was her younger brother John Jr., the one who grew up with her in the White House hallways, held their mother's hand at their father's funeral, and together endured the pain of losing Mother Jackie to cancer In 1994, John Jr. was a young man with special public appeal, the founder of the political magazine George, and married Caroline Bassett in a secret ceremony in 1996. However, Caroline always carried constant worry about her brother's passion for flying, glamorous on the outside, but tragedy behind. The night of July 16, 1999 became the darkest night in her life. John Jr. planned to fly the plane from New Jersey to Massachusetts to attend the wedding of his cousin Rory Kennedy with his wife Carolyn and sister-in-law Lauren Bassett on board. The weather that night was extremely harsh, dense fog darkness swallowing the Atlantic. John Jr. had a pilot's license but did not yet have an instrument rating, meaning he could only navigate by sight. In that fog and darkness, he lost spatial orientation, no longer able to distinguish where the horizon was and where the water was. The plane plunged straight down into the ocean and crashed hard into the sea. All three died instantly. When the plane did not arrive at Martha's Vineyard, a massive search operation was launched. Caroline waited in agonizing despair. On July 20th, Navy divers found the wreckage at a depth of about 36 meters. John Jr.'s body was still strapped in the pilot's seat. At the age of 41, Caroline officially became the sole survivor of President Kennedy's family. No more parents, no more siblings, no one left to share the private memories of the White House in the Camelot days. She firmly demanded privacy, refused a public memorial, and personally scattered her brother's and sister-in-law's ashes into the sea from a Navy destroyer. Money and privilege cannot protect you from unbearable pain. After John Jr.'s death, Caroline turned her pain into a mission to preserve the legacy. She became deeply involved in the Kennedy Library, established the Profile in Courage Award, wrote books on the Constitution and poetry, fields she loved since childhood. In 2013, President Obama appointed her as United States Ambassador to Japan. In Tokyo, she was not only a symbol but also a talented diplomat, strengthening relations between the two countries and visiting Hiroshima and Nagasaki to meet atomic bomb survivors. Later in 2022, she was appointed ambassador to Australia, where she worked tirelessly on important strategic agreements. In the secret world of old, long-established, wealthy families, Caroline still tried to create a peaceful oasis for her three children, Rose, Tatiana, and Jack. She raised them in Manhattan, away from the whirlwind of the extended Kennedy family, refusing most interviews and firmly keeping for her children the most normal childhood possible. But fate seemed to never let go. On November 22, 2024, exactly 61 years after her father's assassination, her second daughter, Tatiana Schlossberg, published an essay in The New Yorker revealing a cruel truth. Only a few months after giving birth to her second child, Tatiana, then only 34 years old, was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, a vicious form of blood cancer. She fought bravely through chemotherapy, bone marrow transplant, and clinical trials, but ultimately passed away on December 30th, 2025, at the age of 35. At the age of 68, Caroline Kennedy once again stands before the grave of her most beloved person. This time it is her own daughter. Currently, she is still continuing her duties as ambassador in Australia, but she has announced that she will leave this position at the end of 2024, regardless of the outcome of the presidential election. Despite having to endure consecutive tragedies from assassinations and plane crashes to cancer, Caroline still maintains her dignity and astonishing composure, never exploiting her family's pain to seek attention or sympathy. She even spoke out against her cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when he held political views that she considered to be exploiting the names of her father and uncle. Caroline Kennedy is now the last survivor of Camelot, the keeper of the flame for the memories of a brilliant and painful period in America, and a living testament to the enduring strength of human beings in the face of the harshest trials of fate. From the 5-year-old poor little rich girl clutching her mother's hand in a light blue coat, standing beside her father's casket amid countless eyes of the nation, Caroline Kennedy has walked through a journey of more than 6 decades of unimaginable losses. She lost her father at only 5 years old, lost Uncle Bobby just 3 years later, lost her mother to cancer, lost her younger brother John Jr. in a plane crash, and finally lost her daughter Tatiana to the cruel disease. Each time she fell, the world waited for her to collapse. Yet Caroline did not collapse. In the secret world of old, long-established wealthy families, where outward glamour often hides the deepest tragedies, behind Caroline chose her own path, silence, resilience, and full of dignity. She did not exploit pain to seek sympathy, did not turn family tragedy into a brand, but quietly became the keeper of the Kennedy legacy. Through her books, through her diplomatic work in Japan and Australia, through the way she raised her 3 children in a peaceful oasis in the middle of Manhattan, Caroline has proven that true legacy does not lie in a famous name or enormous fortune, but in the way we choose to stand up after life knocks us down. She teaches us a profound and haunting lesson. Money can buy almost everything in the world, except the ability to protect the people we love from unbearable pain. Privilege can open every door, but cannot stop fate from knocking. And the most brilliant Camelot, in the end, was only a short dream amid harsh reality. Caroline Kennedy did not defeat the Kennedy curse. She did not need to defeat it. She only needed to survive with all the grace and quiet strength of a woman who has walked through fire. And that very journey has turned her from the symbol of sorrow of a nation into a living testament to the miraculous resilience of the human spirit. If Caroline's story makes you reflect on the losses in your own life, on the hidden strength behind a glamorous exterior, or on how we can still find light amid endless darkness, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to together explore more profound upper-class stories. We will continue turning the pages of sad biographies to understand more clearly that behind every crown are human beings of flesh and blood, people who also cry, who also feel pain, and who also long to be loved just like us. Thank you for staying until the very end. See you in the next video.